Welcome to Zonit Structured Solutions. Zonit develops innovative data center infrastructure products in, at, and to the rack. The Zonit Z-PDS power distribution system controls power delivery at the equipment rack, provides phase load balancing, and allows for fast, easy power reconfigurations. With the Z-PDS, in-house technicians can quickly reconfigure power at the rack to meet any new requirement using standard twist-lock plug adapters. The Z-PDS system also offers the increased power densities needed for server farms and blade server environments and creates unique ways to power them. The Z-PDS works with conduit and busway systems. It can reside in the rack, on top of the rack, or under an overhead cable ladder. Why did Zonit create the Z-PDS? The Z-PDS system was designed to address the technical limitations and eliminate the pain points of existing methods of power distribution to the rack. It can be combined with traditional methods to accomplish these goals. With Z-PDS, you can easily and flexibly deliver the amperage, voltage, and receptacle type you need at the rack to feed your plug strips or your IT equipment directly. Two traditional methods are currently used to implement redundant AB power distribution to the rack. The first method is to run power whips from the electrical distribution panel or panel board under the floor or overhead to the row of racks using either rigid electrical metallic tubing conduits or flexible metallic conduits. Your electrician puts the power type and receptacle you need at the end of the whip. To make a change to the power configuration at the rack, you usually must change your whips as needed. This requires shutting down old whips and reconfiguring them or installing new whips so that you can leave the existing whips in production. Both choices require hot changes at the panel board. The second method is to install a pair of overhead busways above a row of racks. Then put in the power taps you need over every rack and connect them to your plug strips or IT equipment. For new requirements, add, change, or replace them as needed. This requires hot changes and installation of new power taps to support new power requirements. The Z-PDS system inserts a Z-PDS unit at the rack, fed from option number 1 or option number 2, where it becomes the nexus of needed power delivery changes. This system delivers significant advantages compared to the traditional methodologies. First, all needed changes can be done cold and without electricians, saving time and money. Second, they can be done right at the rack, quickly and easily. Third, the upstream parts of the infrastructure, option number 1, panel boards and whips, or option number 2, busways and tap boxes, are insulated from almost all changes and also become much easier to design, build, and maintain. This is because they are now very simple. Just place uniform AB pairs of 3-phase receptacles on the end of the whips or in the busway cans, based on the power density target you choose for each set of racks in the data center. The power density is determined by what amperage and voltage option you choose for the Z-PDS input power and the number of racks served by each pair of AB receptacles. With the Z-PDS system, that number can vary from 9 racks to 1 rack per Z-PDS unit, supplying up to 40 kilowatts per cabinet, meeting almost every power distribution need. The feeds to the Z-PDS units are all the same for each set of racks powered by Z-PDS units. All other needed power changes are made at the Z-PDS system in or at the rack, using low-cost plug adapters which are part of the Z-PDS system. The plug adapters insert into the outputs of the Zonit power distribution units and change the output receptacle to meet whatever power requirement is necessary. Simple, quick, and cost-effective. This is more efficient and safer than making changes at the panel board or inserting new tap boxes in the busway. Fourth, The patented phase balancing features of the Z-PDS system will automatically, statistically balance the loads on each of the 3 input phases from the AB power sources, so it does not have to be done manually. Fifth, the 3-phase output receptacles of the Z-PDS units have each individual hot lead protected by a separate circuit breaker. Due to the Z-PDS unit's different location in the power topology from a power whip or a busway tap box, the 3 circuit breakers do not have to be pinned to trip together, which is the case for the circuit breakers protecting a power whip or a busway tap box receptacle per the National Electrical Code. This means that if a multi-phase plug strip or other load is plugged into a Z-PDS unit and one phase is overloaded, only that phase will trip and the domain of failure is minimized. This is in contrast to a multi-phase plug strip connected into a power whip or busway tap box, where a trip of one breaker forces all of the circuit breakers protecting the outlet to trip, completely de-energizing the plug strip. Sixth, all or most of the elements of a Z-PDS deployment can be built off-site and just installed on-site, which is much less expensive than the standard methodologies where some or all of the power system elements are custom-built and installed on-site. To summarize, install the Z-PDS at the rack system fed from either option number 1 or option number 2. Make all needed changes at the rack from that point forward. Z-PDS combines the flexibility of the busway with the low cost of whips and improves on both. Let's compare the Z-PDS to the traditional methods, reviewing the design, installation, and change options available with each method. Flexible metal liquid-tight conduit whips can be run overhead or under the floor and are the least expensive whips to purchase and install. They can be prefabricated and shipped on-site for installation. This is much easier and logical to do when combined with the Z-PDS system, because the specifications for each whip are known in advance and don't change. They also can be moved around an area of the data center after installation. Changes to power requirements at the rack often require that new whips be run. This is because it is not legal under the NEC to change an active whip, so most changes to flexible whips, other than relocating them, usually require new whips to be fabricated and run, because typically you are meeting a new power requirement at the rack, but still need to feed power to the equipment that is already running. This means that the new whips must be installed into the panel board hot, or the whole panel board and all the racks it powers must be powered down. This is a very large disruption to production. Rigid electrical metallic tubing whips are the oldest and most traditional method utilized in the data center, and they were brought over from standard commercial building electrical practices. While it can be run overhead or under the floor, EMT must be built on site and cannot be moved once in place. It is the most expensive type of whip construction, yet the least flexible and adaptable method. Changes require either new conduit or whips to be run, and/or the panel board must be powered down to allow changes to existing whips. Power distribution with a busway system was derived from factory floor electrical distribution practices, where you are moving carts and forklifts on smooth concrete floors. It usually is placed overhead and installed on site. It is the most expensive method to buy and install and has the largest domain of failure. It is also difficult and expensive to upgrade the power capacity of a busway system after installation. Once installed, changes to it are made by adding, moving, or removing busway tap boxes. This requires tall ladders. Changes are made hot, which can be done. However, some resistance to doing so in certain locations has started to occur. For example, some union labor will not change tap boxes hot, and some local regulations require cold changes. This is especially true for the newer high-capacity busways that can deliver up to 1200 amps three-phase power, a very high amount of energy. Now let's examine the problems of the traditional methods. Changes have to be made hot at the panel or busway. Changes made while the system is hot create risk to the electrician and potential non-compliance with OSHA regulations. An electrician or contractor is required to reconfigure power on the data center floor. There are larger than necessary domains of failure due to the limits of the National Electrical Code. The domain of failure is the number of receptacles affected by an event that trips one or more circuit breakers. Panel boards, also known as electrical distribution panels, often run out of circuit breaker slots, which require additional panel boards or other disruptive work to be done. The electrical phase load balancing for power sources, such as UPS units and generators, must be done manually. Changing the power density requires high expenditures and downtime, especially for busways. Everything must be custom-built and installed on-site, creating a slower process and greater costs. Let's now look at some advantages of Zonit's Z-PDS solution. With the Zonit Z-PDS, you can save money in both capital and operational expenditures. You can meet all 20 amp to 60 amp requirements for single-phase or three-phase power at the rack. With the Z-PDS, you can perform de-energized power configuration changes by using the Z-PDS circuit breakers at the rack. Only turn off what you must when needed. Changes in output receptacle type are made via inexpensive plug adapters. This includes Hydra plug adapters that plug into the Z-PDS Unit 3-phase outlet receptacles and provide multiple single-phase outlets, including NEMA 520R and IEC C13 or C19. Data centers can make needed changes themselves using staff technicians, not electricians. Most Z-PDS system elements can be built off-site and simply installed at the rack, saving time and money during installation. The Z-PDS system greatly reduces the costs of making power configuration changes over the life cycle of the data center, resulting in lower total cost of ownership. The Z-PDS is a system solution and not a point product. It is designed to meet the needs of the data center manager. It moves the nexus of change to the rack, not the panel or busway. Changes are made easy via foolproof twist-lock plug adapters, not using electricians to add or change power whips or climb up on ladders to add, move, or change tap boxes. The Z-PDS solution supports the inevitable changes inherent in the life cycle of a data center, delivers lower total cost of ownership, and minimizes operational risks. It eliminates or reduces the pain points characteristic of other traditional methodologies. The system provides superior quality and an industry-leading warranty of 5 years. The Z-PDS meets the electrical requirements of almost all modern IT equipment. The very few exceptions can be dealt with using the traditional methods for power requirements greater than 60 amps three-phase. The net result is a system much easier to live with and operate. We invented the Z-PDS system to improve the status quo. We encountered several power distribution methods being used in the data center, each one having significant economic or technical limitations and operational pain points. We saw that by innovation, we could eliminate existing pain points by eliminating the need for an electrician to make almost all power changes in the data center, allowing for cold, de-energized power configuration changes, reducing the domain of power failures to a minimum, automatically balancing phase loads experienced by a UPS or generator, and moving the point of change and circuit breaker control from the panel board or busway to the rack. Along with replacing outdated technology, the Z-PDS increases flexibility in the data center and reduces costs by allowing system elements to be built off-site and quickly and easily installed on-site, lowering the total cost of ownership for your power distribution system, making power configuration changes and power density upgrades quicker, simpler, and less expensive to do. And by delivering a high-quality solution with the needed flexibility for cost-conscious companies. Zonit's mission is, and will continue to be, to design, develop, and supply cutting-edge products that improve your data center. Z-PDS's design goals reflect our mission, creating a flexible, pre-engineered, turnkey power deployment system all the way from the wall to the rack. There are several ways to deploy the Z-PDS. The first is a complete deployment. This is a build-it-once methodology. Plan once, deploy whips or busway taps once, add cabinets and Z-PDS units when you need them. The second is the point deployment method. This allows a build-as-you-go methodology, deploying Z-PDS units in selected areas of your data center, such as cabinets with high power density. First, install uniform AB three-phase receptacles in your chosen power density using your existing infrastructure of power whips or busway. Next, install Z-PDS units and connect plug adapters or Hydra plug adapters if you need them. Finally, connect your plug strips and IT equipment. You can expand your Z-PDS installation as and when you like. In both methods, after deploying the Z-PDS, changes are made above the floor without interrupting power delivery. You can reposition the Z-PDS units as needed and handle the very few exceptions as they occur. In summary, the Zonit Z-PDS system gives the data center manager significant cost and operational advantages. It provides fully redundant, high power densities at the rack. The system will supply up to 40 kilowatts per cabinet. The Z-PDS system reduces by 1/2 to 2/3 the required number of power whips and breaker positions. This makes your data center much more future-proof and can be very important if you are running out of circuit breaker slots in your panel boards. Future power configurations can be made at the rack. It moves the point of change away from the power panel or busway and complies with OSHA's requirements to de-energize circuits to reconfigure them. Zonit has been revolutionizing data center operations in, at, and to the rack. We have focused on developing patented technologies that drive breakthrough innovations and efficiencies for our customers. Our infrastructure solutions maximize system uptime, security, and flexibility, providing more control, less risk, and greater return on investment. Zonit Structured Solutions, your source for innovative data center infrastructure technology in, at, and to the rack.